This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, Bruchim Abam, welcome everyone. Thanks everybody for joining. This is our first year in preparation of Chodesh Elul Haba Aleinu L'Tova. Before we begin, some important announcements. This week is Parshas Re'eh. So I recently became familiar with a particular organization, and I'd just like to speak about it very briefly. It's called Daily Giving, where one contributes $1 a day, and the contributions go basically to a group of about 50 different organizations across the whole spectrum, whether it's Chai Lifeline, Bonei Olam, A Time, Avigdor's Helping Hand, and so on and so forth. And basically, they disperse about now almost $7,000 a day, and over the course of the year, they disperse over $2 million. So I recently started participating myself, and I get a very big kick because we know one is supposed to try to give tzedakah daily, and sometimes on Shabbos it's not really possible. So I get an email every day, okay, your $1 went here, your $1 went there, and then the clincher is Motzei Shabbos when you get the email, and here it is, you spent the whole day basically, Tanugim, Barburim, Muslav V'dagim, and you're able to contribute to tzedakah even on Shabbos. Okay, so if anybody wants to participate with that, go to dailygiving.org. Not .com, dailygiving.org. Okay, next important announcement is today's Shiur. Let's see. We have the Shiurim on Sefer Devarim are sponsored by the Zakheim family. Lo Yinishmas Rav Shlomo Eliezer ben Harav Yaakov Zakheim is Neshama Shav Aliyah. But as we went to Shiur, Dr. Zakheim's mother just passed away, Rivka Basima. The Levaya is in the morning, so may this year be Le'iloi Nishmasa, Began Eden Tehei Menuchasa, and she should have a great Aliyas Neshama. Tonight's Shiur is sponsored by Sroli Stegman, Zchus for Shleima for Yechiel Michal ben Sarah Yehudas. Sponsored by Yedidi, Mr. and Mrs. Eli Sizma, in honor of the Shiur. And is sponsored anonymously for Refuah Shalema for Nechama Bas Vital. Shav Refuah Shalema B'Soch Shachal Yisrael. Be'ez Hashem, we're working very hard to get out the upcoming Sefer on Sefer Bereshis in Lashon HaKodesh. The plan is, first we're going to have on the whole Sefer Bereshis, but it's becoming a little bit too big. So it's going to be, Be'ez Hashem, 2 volumes in Lashon HaKodesh, 42 or 43 chapters on the first half of Bereshis. If anybody would like to participate, that is still available. The Sefer on the Yomim Noram from ArtScroll is available here at the Shiur, and if you want to order it from the ArtScroll website, you can now order it for the next couple of days with free shipping. Put in the following promo code, RADIO, R-A-D-I-O. Okay, you got all that information? Now we could start learning. Okay, so Parshas Re'eh and Chodesh Elul. The Gemara tells us a great principle, and that is that there are certain targeted parshios that were orchestrated and designated to be read at specific times in the year. Now the Gemara only mentions 2 parshios that are scheduled at specific intervals. The Gemara in the end of Masechta Megillah says that you should read the Toichacha of B'chukaisai before Shavuos, and you should read the Toichacha of Kisavai before Rosh Hashanah. Why? Tichla, Shana, V'kilaisel. Let the year end with its curses. All the other parshios, it's free agent. You can read them whenever you want to read them. However, the Shlah HaKadosh in a number of places advances the following principle. Namely, Davar Be'itoi Ma'toiv. That every parsha is connected to a specific time of the year. In other words, the parshios that we read Chanukah time, Miketz, Vayigash, they're connected to Chanukah. The parshas that we read Purim time are connected to Purim. Even though the Gemara doesn't tell us they're connected, and one would say, I don't know, maybe it's random, it happened to fall out that way. No, we know that great things are never coincidental, and the time that a parsha is read is connected to that particular time of the year. So I always think that what parsha do we read at the onset of Chodesh Elul? Re'eh. Re'eh is always read either on Shabbos Rosh Chodesh Elul or immediately prior to it, like immediately before it, like we have this year. We're going to read Parshas Re'eh, and then Rosh Chodesh is what? Sunday, Monday. Yeah? So there then must be some connection, important connection, between Parshas Re'eh and the month of Elul, the month of Teshuva Haba Aleinu L'Taiva. So we would like to investigate that as well. Okay, the Mishnah says in Masechta Rosh Hashanah, 4 times a year the world is judged. The world is judged on Pesach over the grain. The world is judged on Shavuos for the fruits. The 4th judgment is on Sukkot for the water. And the 3rd judgment, says the Mishnah, on Rosh Hashanah, all mankind passes before God. Here are the 2 words we're going to focus on tonight, Kivnei Maron. What do Kivnei Maron mean? I don't know. Never heard of that. Doesn't say it anywhere in the Chumash. What do these words Kivnei Maron mean? Shenemar Hayoitzer Yachad Libam Hamevin El Kol Ma'asem. Everyone passes before God like Bnei Maron. What are Bnei Maron? So the Gemara Masechta Rosh Hashanah Daf Yud Ches asks that question. Mai Kivnei Maron, number 2. And the Gemara brings 2 opinions. Opinion number 1, Hacha Targimo. In Bavel, they explained it, Kivnei Imrana, like young sheep. What does it mean, like young sheep? Any farmers here? Any soon-to-be, wannabe farmers? I see most of you are somewhere in between soon-to-be and want-to-be. Okay, so if farmers or shepherds, any aspiring shepherds over here. So if you had sheep, and you would put them in a corral, yeah? And when you want to open up the pen, so then the pen usually only allows 1 sheep to leave at a time. And you open up the corral, the pen, and the sheep go out 1 at a time, and the 10th sheep, you mark it for Meiser. So we pass before God like young sheep who the corral is open, the pen is open, and they come out of the corral. The Gemara brings another opinion. Reish Lakish Amar, Kema'alois Beis Maron. Reish Lakish said, like the ascent up to the house of Maron. What's that? Do you remember like 10 years ago, no, a little more, 15 years ago, if you'd want to go on vacation, I remember, we would go on vacation, so we would go, where would we go already? New Hampshire. So or Pittsburgh, you go to visit my grandparents in Pittsburgh. So how do you get there? How do you get anywhere? There's no Waze, there's no Google Maps, there's no GPS even. They didn't have GPS. So, I didn't have GPS, yeah? So you go to AAA. You get a triptych. So you go to some chacham over there in AAA, and they say, where are you going? I'm going to Pittsburgh. Wait a minute. They come back 25 minutes later with this booklet. And the booklet is highlighted, the road is highlighted with special stickers. Go here, go there, go there. And it's like 20 pages. And so basically in the ancient times, if you needed to get somewhere and you needed a ticket, you would go up a special ascent. It was a very narrow ascent. And there's some guru sitting on the top of the mountain who would give you the ticket. And this ascent only allowed people to go up 1 at a time. That's the second opinion. Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Rabbi Yehuda said, Shmuel kechayolos shel beis David, like the soldiers marching in David's army. In David's army, so the general would say, you here, you there, you there, and they would march single file. And the general would randomly or seemingly randomly order them to march in a certain order. And that's what it means we stand before God on Rosh Hashanah, Kivnei Maron. Got it? 3 perushim in Bnei Maron. Either like sheep coming out of the pen, or like those going up the ascent of Beis Maron, or like the soldiers in David's army. Okay. So here's the question, the $1 million question. And if you look in your booklets, I have to give you another sheet. This is my favorite sheet, okay? You want to give these out? There was once a great tzaddik by the name of Rabbi Yitzchak Blazer. Get your sheet, take it, hang it up in your windshield, put it in your front window, on the refrigerator. Your wife said, who's this? I never heard of them. Rabbi Yitzchak Blazer, known as Rabbi Yitzchak Petterberg. Rabbi Yitzchak Petterberg. The Rabbi Yisrael Salanter had 3 primary disciples. Rabbi Yitzchak Petterberg, and Rav Naftali Amsterdam, and the Alter of Kelm, Reb Simcha Zisel Ziv. And Va'af hu haya moina shvacham, he would say their praise. He would say, the Alter of Kelm is a chacham, he's a wise man. And Rav Naftali Amsterdam, he's a tzaddik. And Rav Yitzchak Petterberg was a lamdin. Now, you can imagine, because Rav Yitzchak Petterberg is known for his tzidkus, so you can imagine what kind of tzaddik Rav Naftali Amsterdam must have been if he is called a tzaddik. But Rav Yitzchak Petterberg actually, the Chafetz Chaim writes in the Shmiras Halashon that it was the practice of Rav Yitzchak Blazer. Actually, I put it on the sheet over here. In the Sefer Chovas Hashmira, number 24, that during the Yomim Noraim, says the Chafetz Chaim, it is appropriate for someone to curtail their speech, like we know about the great Goin and Tzaddik Rabbi Yitzchak Petterberg, the Av Bezin of St. Petersburg, that from Rosh Chodesh Elul until Yom Kippur, he did not talk. He did not talk. Period. He didn't speak. I believe his wife had a baby girl, meaning he had a baby girl, and he did say something to her. He said, Mazal Toiv. And those were the only two words he ever spoke between Rosh Chodesh Elul and Yom HaKippurim. Says the Chafetz Chaim, we might not be on that madrega, but at least during the Aseres Yemei Teshuva, one should not speak. Period. Chafetz Chaim writes. Now, I think we could also say we're not quite on that madrega, but certainly it's worthy to think about how tzaddikim of not so long ago seriously curtailed their diburim during this time of the year, and one should, when approaching these days, these Yom Noram, one of the things to focus on is to be more circumspect in the words that we say. Okay, be it as it may, Rav Yitzchak Petterberg asked the following question. What's this Mishnah telling me? Now you would think, okay, the Mishnah is saying that in Rosh Hashanah, God doesn't take everybody and scan everybody simultaneously and take everyone's, meaning maybe what the Mishnah is saying is that you would think that God judges everyone together. Maybe God just looks at the whole Jewish people as one entity and then he stamps one gezerah on everybody. And the Mishnah is saying, no, on Rosh Hashanah we walk before God like Bnei Maron individually. Says Rabbi Glatstein, of course God doesn't just judge everyone as one entity. Of course he judges us as individuals. It's obvious he judges everyone as individuals, not just as one large mass. The chiddush then of the Mishnah is that Hashem judges us on Rosh Hashanah one by one. You would think God scans everyone together. I mean, the Rebbeinu Shalom, he's as good as a scanner, no l'chayra. And just like a scanner could scan everything simultaneously and itemize it separately, so you would think that God scans everyone simultaneously and he itemizes everyone separately. And the answer is he doesn't do that. First he does Beryl, and then Shmerel, and then Yankel, and then Feivel, and then the next guy. Says Rav Yitzchak Petterberg, if all the Mishnah is telling me is that God judges us on Rosh Hashanah one by one, zeh achar zeh, then all the Mishnah needed to do was Rosh Hashanah kol boi olam oivrim lefanav zeh achar zeh. If all the Mishnah was saying is that God does not scan us together and itemize, but rather he does it one by one, the Mishnah could simply say that on Rosh Hashanah God, we pass before God zeh achar zeh. We would not need a mashal. We would not need a mashal to explain this very sophisticated concept of one after another. We wouldn't need to bring in the sheep, we wouldn't need to bring in the soldiers of David's army, and we wouldn't need to bring in the ascent of Beis Maron. The Mishnah could say simply, right, we know that the purpose, the function of a mashal is to explain a difficult concept. It does not seem to be a difficult concept that God judges us on Rosh Hashanah one by one. That's the first question. This is, it's not rocket science. On Shabbos, I went to an Afruf, Rabbi Feynman made an Afruf, and Rabbi Feynman said, how people say, it's not rocket science? So he said, did you ever meet a rocket scientist? I said, actually, I never met a rocket. So he said, my brother-in-law, I found his brother-in-law is a rocket scientist. So he said, you have to be careful when you say it's not rocket science, because there are, rocket scientists out there. So, but the fact that we pass before God one after another, that is not rocket science. So why do I need 3 mishalim? Moreover, asked Rabbi Glatstein, why do I need 3 mishalim? One man Amar says like sheep. One man Amar says like soldiers. One man Amar says like the ascent of David's army. What is this all about? In other words, what is the point of the Mishnah with these mishalim? Why do I need 3 mishalim? And the question is, what is the Mishnah trying? What is the nuance of difference between these 3 understandings of Bnei Maron? So let's get the following principle. The Gemara says in Masechta Rosh Hashanah Daf Ches, Ki choik liYisrael hu mishpat lelekei Yaakov. Says the Gemara, from this pasuk we learn out that when Hashem judges on Rosh Hashanah, first He judges the Melech of Klal Yisrael, and then He judges the rest of the people. Like the pasuk says, Lasois mishpat avdoi u mishpat amoi. First God, Shlomo says, judges me, and then He judges the rest of the people. So the Gemara is telling us that on Rosh Hashanah, first Hashem judges the king, and then He judges everyone else. Why does Hashem judge that way? So the Gemara says 2 reasons. Number 1, it's not derech eretz for the king to wait outside while Hashem judges the people. And more importantly, says the Gemara, that if Hashem would judge the king last, by the time He would get to the king, He would be so blazing angry from all the sins that everybody did, that He would kaviyachal be in a bad mood, and therefore the Rebbeinu Shalom would give the king a bad judgment. So Hashem judges the king mekame deleifush charoin af, before his anger is blazing hot. He wants to give the king a good judgment, so He judges the king first when he's still in a good mood. Now, what does this mean? What kind of mood does God have? God has good mood. It almost sounds like this is like a traffic court, where if you have a traffic ticket, you get there early in the morning when the judge is caffeinated and donut rated, and he's in a good mood, and he still hasn't gotten a call from his wife who's abused him yet, right? So he's still in a good mood. But later on in the day, when his caffeine wears off and his donuts wear off, and he's in a really bad mood, then you want to defer that to a different day. So what the Rebbeinu Shalom conducts himself like a judge of Basar V'Dam. What's the Gemara saying before God's in a good mood? Says Rav Itzela Petterberg. From this Gemara we learn out a fundamental principle in how God's judgment operates. Malchusa da'ara ke'in malchusa d'shmaya. God parallels the heavenly judgment to work and operate like the earthly judgment. God conducts His court like a earthly court. And if in an earthly court, in the beginning of the day, the judge is in a good mood, and as the day wears off, his mood progressively becomes more grouchy, Kiviyachal, that is how the Rebbeinu Shalom operates. This is not Rav Itzla saying this is the Gemara. The Gemara clearly says that the earlier you are judged, the better off you are. It's not a matter of mitzvos and averos. It's not a matter of worthy or unworthy. It's a matter of the mood of the judge. Now, why does God conduct His court like the earthly court? Why would God want to operate the heavenly court like a judicial system down here in this world? The answer is because it is so important for us to relate to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in a real way. And the only way we could relate to Hashem as a judge is to envision it like an earthly system, which is the only system we know. And therefore God operates the heavenly court exactly like an earthly system. So it's probably not like a traffic court, because that's like a kangaroo court, but it's like a real judicial system where the judge's mood, so to speak, does affect the outcome of the trial. And therefore, the Rebbeinu Shalom acts as if he was being influenced by the earlier cases. That's what we see from this Gemara. That we see the Rebbeinu Shalom allows himself to be influenced by the decisions of the earlier cases. From this Gemara we also learn another very important principle. Namely, it is critical to figure out how to get to the front of the line. How to get judged early. Because the earlier you're judged, the better off you are. You can have someone who's rotten to the core, who has every avera in the book, and if they're judged early, they could get a favorable outcome. And you could have a guy who's a tzaddik nifla, but if he's going to be judged in the back end, watch out. So what is incumbent upon us to try to figure out, if we're smart, is how does one get an early judgment? How do you get to the front of the line? Most people, they wonder, how do they get to the front of the line? Matzai Pesach. That's also an important line. Although that line, you don't want to get too early, because you don't want pie that was made at 1 p.m. in the afternoon, You want to make sure that you're early, but not too early. But this line is even more important, because this line is life and death. This line affects our outcome for the upcoming year. And now Rav Yitzchak Petterberg sort of takes us on a journey of trying to understand how the judgment of heaven actually operates. Take a look at number 9. The Gemara in Masechta Rosh Hashanah, Daf Tezayin Amud Aleph, Amud Beis. Amar Rav Kruspadoy, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. I want to thank, when I was coming out of 11th grade, I don't know, I must have been 17 years old, we learned this piece of Rav Yitzchak Petterberg with a wonderful Rebbe of ours, Rabbi Eliyahu Meza Shlita, who taught us the Sefer Koich Vayar. And this particular piece, I remember, made a big roshim on me when I was a teenager. And I like to say it over quite often. The Gemara Masechta Rosh Hashanah tells us that Rav Kruspadoy said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, there are 3 books open on Rosh Hashanah. One is of the completely righteous, one is of the completely wicked, and one of the Beinonim. Those who are righteous are written and sealed for immediate life. Those who are wicked are written and sealed for immediate death. And the Beinonim, Tluyin v'yoimdim, they're suspended and standing from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur. If they're Zoicha, they're written for life. If they're not Zoicha, they don't make it. That's the Gemara. I'm sure you heard that Gemara. That's probably the most famous Gemara associated with the din of Rosh Hashanah. So who exactly are these Beinonim? What does it mean to be a tzaddik? What does it mean to be a rasha? So the Gemara in Kedushin says that a person should always view themselves as if they're 50-50, and if they do one mitzvah, they tilt the scales, and if they do one avera, they tilt the scales. So presumably then, the Beinoni on Rosh Hashanah is someone who has 50,672 averos and 50,752 mitzvahs. He's exactly equal. Beinoni is someone who's mamish equal. It's the game is tied 7-7 in the bottom of the 12th inning. It's exactly equal. So then what's a tzaddik? Is a tzaddik someone who fasts 6 days a week and he learns 22 hours? No, a tzaddik is a guy, he has 50,000 mitzvahs and 49,999 averos. A tzaddik is someone who has one more mitzvah. And what's a rasha? Is a rasha a serial killer? No. A rasha is someone who has 49,999 mitzvahs and 50,000 averos. So Beinoni is exactly equal. A tzaddik is someone who has one more mitzvah, and a rasha is someone who has one more avera. And therefore the Gemara seems to be saying, if you're exactly equal, God suspends judgment till Yom Kippur. If you have more mitzvahs, you're going to be written and sealed immediately for life. Or if you have one more avera, chas v'shalom, one is written and sealed immediately for death. And that's how the Rambam learns. The Rambam in Hilchos Teshuva, Paragimel, Halacha Gimel, explicitly writes that the way the judgment operates on Rosh Hashanah is as follows. That there's no Marav here. If anybody, the Marav's not going to be here. There's a Shiur here till about 9:30. So the Rambam writes explicitly that the way the judgment of Rosh Hashanah works is that the Beinonim, if somebody's 50-50, their judgment is suspended. If you have one more mitzvah, you get life. If you have one more avera, chas v'shalom, you get that. The Rambam says that it works that way. Comes the Ran, and the Ran asks one simple question on the Rambam. And that is, the Ran asks, look around the world. don't we see many righteous people who have more mitzvos than averos, and they don't make it through the year? And we see many wicked people who have more averos than mitzvos, and they do make it through the year. So how could you learn the Gemara that Beinoni is someone who is a 50-50, and a tzaddik is someone with one more mitzvah, and a rasha is someone with one more avera? Ma'aseh b'chol yom, just look around the world and you'll see that it is certainly not true that everybody who lives was a tzaddik and everyone who doesn't live was a rasha. And therefore the Ran learns the Gemara completely different than the Rambam. The Ran learns the Gemara that tzaddik does not mean someone who has more mitzvahs than averos. Tzaddik means he's a tzaddik bedin. And rasha means they're a rasha bedin. What does it mean to be a tzaddik bedin? Tzaddik bedin means here's you have a guy. He has 10 mitzvahs and 2,000 averos. But God said, mitzvah number 7, I really like it. That's a nice mitzvah. That was a beautiful mitzvah. That's a zisa. It gives me a lot of nachas, that mitzvah. You're going to live. I'm going to define you as a tzaddik. You're going to live this year. Anyone who lives is a tzaddik. Not anyone who lives has more mitzvahs than averos. Tzaddik means tzaddik bedin. And rasha means, here you could have a guy who has 2 million mitzvahs and 3 averos. God says, I don't like that avera. You shouldn't have done that. And I'm going to take you away from this world because of that avera. So upstairs you're going to be a tzaddik. You're definitely going to be a tzaddik. The thing is, down here in this world, you will be a rasha bedin. You will be convicted in din. So upstairs, everyone agrees. The Rambam and the Ran agree. There's a very simple procedure after 120. The Rebbeinu Shalom goes ahead and he weighs your mitzvahs and averos. If you have more mitzvahs than averos, Gan Eden. More averos and mitzvos, Gehenim. 50-50, the Gemara says God throws you a bone and you go to Gan Eden. But that's Lachar Me'av Esrim Shana. What about on Rosh Hashanah? It's Machloikes, Rambam and Ramban. Rambam says the way it works after 120, it works that way every year on Rosh Hashanah. The Ran says no, it doesn't work that way in this world. In this world, God has mysterious ways, so to speak. Sometimes a person can have more mitzvos than averos, but there'll be a rasha bedin. Sometimes a person can have more averos than mitzvos. He could be a tzaddik bedin. Tzaddik and rasha don't mean more mitzvos or less mitzvos. It means the outcome of what the Rebbeinu Shalom decides. How will the Rambam answer the Ran's kasha? Does every guy who lives, is he a tzaddik? Does every person who dies, are they a rasha? Don't we see righteous people who die? Don't we see wicked people who live? Says Rav Itzla Petterberg, the Rambam would say as follows: there definitely are exceptions, but in the vast majority of cases, that's how it works. People have more mitzvahs than averos, they live. People have more averos than mitzvahs, they don't live. Now we can never say about it, but certainly there are exceptions to the rule. There are exceptions. But we have to be mamin that the general way the din works is mitzvos and averos are weighed. Now, nobody could ever say about any individual, oh, I know they live because they're a tzaddik, or they died because they're not a tzaddik. Nobody knows, because there are always exceptions. But the Rambam would say the general way that the din works is such that it works that based on the majority. So far we're learning there are 2 ways the din operates. It can operate based on brute strength. You want a good year? You earn it. Somebody who doesn't merit a good year, they also earned it. Then there's another way where there's certain mitzvahs that find favor in the eyes of Hashem, that even though they won't outweigh one's demerit, Hashem particularly likes them, and He'll give a person a good year based on those mitzvahs. And then Rav Itzla says there's a third system of judgment. And that is what Rebbeinu Shalom was asked by Moshe Rabbeinu. Remember, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Moshe Rabbeinu asked Hashem, Hoidieni Hashem estrachecha. Hashem, teach me your ways. What did Moshe Rabbeinu mean, teach me your ways? So the Gemara says in Brachos, you have it on the sheet over here, number 21. Moshe Rabbeinu was asked HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hoidieni Hashem estrachecha. Tzadik v'raloi rasha v'torah. Sometimes there's a perfectly righteous tzaddik who has no sin and they could suffer. Sometimes you could have a Rasha Merusha, has no redeeming quality, and they could be successful. And Moshe Rabbeinu said, God, I want to understand that. Now Moshe wasn't saying I want to understand the Ran. Why is it sometimes that a guy could have a few good mitzvos and you'll favor them because of that? That Moshe understood. Moshe didn't say, why is it that you could have a tzaddik with a few averos and you punish them because of that? That Moshe understood. What Moshe didn't understand is there's a phenomenon that somebody could be a perfect Rasha and prosper, or a perfect tzaddik and suffer. And Hashem told Moshe, you'll never understand that one. That's beyond human understanding. So basically, there are three ways judgment can operate. One is analytics. God punches the numbers, He weighs everything, he puts everything into the system. Okay, this guy, he's 72-28, this guy's 63-37, that guy's 51-49. That's the Rambam system. Then you have the Ran system. The Ran system is, like the Rebbe, he marks on a curb, he has a neat handwriting, so he'll get a few extra points. This guy, there's a method to the madness, so to speak. In other words, it's not purely analytical. Like Lahavdil Elf Avle Avdalos. I don't know what baseball is, but they once told me there's a sport in America. So you have a big machloikas. Again, I don't know about this either, but somebody told me, in baseball, should you go just by the numbers? You have some managers, they open up this big loose leaf with numbers and pages and statistics. This pitcher, when he throws a strike, a fastball against this hitter, he left-handed. Here, they have everything spelled to it. And then some managers are a little bit more intuitive. They're more instinctive, So it's not an exact science. So lahavdil, there are two ways of the judgment. You have the Rambam system where it's an exact science, or you have the Ran system where there's sort of a method, but it's not an exact science. And then you have this arbitrary way to us, or random way that human beings have no understanding of. Says Rav Itzla Petterberg, these three types of systems are actually three ways as well how to get to the front of the line in the judgment of Rosh Hashanah. And the three mishalim given by the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, what kivnei maron means, doesn't mean like sheep, doesn't mean like going up the mountain to get the triptych, or it doesn't mean the soldiers in David's army. These are three ways of how to get to the front of the line. In other words, says Rav Itzla Petterberg, the Mishnah is not saying that God judges us as individuals on Rosh Hashanah. Of course He judges us as individuals. Nobody would ever say He judges us in one lump mass. The Mishnah is not even coming to say that we pass before God one by one. Of course we pass before God one by one. Otherwise Hashem would be upset. If Hashem would judge everyone, scan everyone simultaneously and itemize, Rebbe Hashem would be angry, so to speak, because all of the Averos come before Him simultaneously. The point of the Mishnah is God judges us one by one through a method of who goes first, who goes second, and who goes last. And the three Amoraim who disagree as to what it means, Kivnei Maron, are giving us different interpretations of how to get to the front of the line. There are three ways to get to the front of the line. Way number one is earn it. Way number two is there might be some specific type of merit that God particularly likes, that He'll favor you to put you at the front of the line. And then the third manner, it's random. It's luck of the draw. And let's dissect these three mishalim. Mashal number one. Back to you farmers, you shepherds out there. I heard in North Woodmere there are a lot of shepherds. No? Cedarhurst, not so many. Shraga, what do you say? No? Really? I don't know who told that. Okay, fine. I'll go back to my reporter. You don't know? No, I'm totally joking. Even though last week we learned you only joke in the beginning of the shir and at the end of the shir, and not in the middle of the shir, but, once in a while. Every segment is like a new segment, so you could... Okay, so basically like this. If you're a shepherd and you open up the corral, bah, all of a sudden they see they see like the lahavda, the running back, he sees the open field. So the sheep he sees, before Elul I have to get out all the goblins, But he sees the open corral. Which sheep is going out first? The strongest sheep. The sheep with the big bicep, the big muscles. He's going to mosey his way down. He's going to elbow out. He's going to box out all the other sheep and all the shvacha sheep. The sheep that when you see him on the shelf with the lamb chop, you say, that looks like a juicy sheep. That sheep is coming out first. It's the stronger sheep. That indicates that one way to get to the front of the line is like the Rambam. You know how you get to the front of the line? Have more mitzvahs than averos. If you have more mitzvahs than averos, you'll be like the strong sheep, and God will put you at the front of the line. We know, by the way, if you look in, take a look at number 14, the Gemara Brachas Daf Yud Zayin, it says, "Listen up to me, you strong-hearted ones who are distant from tzedakah." That refers to tzaddikim who are called strong. Why are they strong? Because God doesn't have to give them charity. They earn their parnasa. They're strong. Tzaddikim are strong, as opposed to Rishonim is ve'ata vayizani b'cha kol hanechasholim acharecha ve'ata oyef yagea. The Rishonim are weak. They're very weak. They're oyef. They're yagea v'lo yorei elokim. So here we have a great eitzah. You know how you're going to get to the front of the line, Ira? You deserve it. You make sure you have more mitzvahs than averos. Say, Rabbi, that's the worst advice that I could possibly have heard right before Chodesh Elul. Understand? All of a sudden, a guy's going to wake up in the 11th hour, right? We're holding right now Chav Zayin Tammuz. Well, what's today? Now it's Chav Ches already tonight. Chav Zayin, it's almost Elul. It's already after the Samer Rebbe's yahrzeit even, right? It's Chav Ches Tammuz. It's Chav Ches Av, Chav Ches Av. And here it is, we're coming on Elul, and we say, you're going to get to the front of the line, you're going to do more mitzvahs than averos. How are you going to accomplish that in 3 days, while the last 11 months, who knows what the guy's been doing? So this is really a poor piece of advice. If you would tell somebody in the beginning of the year, make sure by the end of the year you have more mitzvahs than averos, okay, that might be a reasonable suggestion. But in the 11th hour, when the clock is about to strike 12, you can tell somebody you have more mitzvahs than averos. Now, what's supposed to stay up all night learning for the next 3 nights so we have more mitzvahs than averos? It's too late for that. That's not a good eitzah. So the sheep mashal, it's a very good mashal, and it's true. The stronger people, the people with more mitzvahs, get to the front of the line, but it's not practical in the 11th hour. Let's talk about the third mashal, the soldiers in David's army. So David HaMelech would say, hey, you're first, you're second, you're third. What was that based on? Nobody knows. Even the general, you could ask the general, why'd you do that? He would have to go through months of therapy to bring out what his cheshbonos were and why he said you. In other words, it's almost not detectable to human seichel. So why the Rebbeinu Shalom has certain ways that he favors certain people, we have no idea. We're not privy to that information. So yes, there might be a guy who the Rebbeinu Shalom wants to give a good year, so we'll put him in the front of the line, even though he's not deserving. Or vice versa, there might be someone Hashem wants to challenge, and he could throw him to the back. But we can't tell, we have nothing practical to tell somebody, okay, get to the front of the line. You know how? Luck of the draw. Okay, so what do? We don't have any practical suggestions. But here's where the triptych comes in. I knew there was a reason why I once went to triptych. But the truth is, this is true in any line. You could use this to the Matzah Shabbos pizza store. You could use this to the line in the bank. What's also a good, some people, I don't know why, they want to torture their family, so they take them on Chol Hamoed to Six Flags, right? So they wait online for 2.5 hours to risk a lifetime of brain injury from being shaken up and down for the course of 97 seconds. I remember one time in Chol Hamoed, I went there, and after an hour and 45 minutes, no. I said, I will not continue to wait on this line. And I waved, I went back all the way around, and I told everyone, this is not happening. That was the best decision, one of the best decisions I have ever made. Anyway, bottom line is, Who gets the triptych? When they go up to the Malos Beis Maron, who gets the ticket first? The strong guy? No. Random? No. You know who gets the ticket? You know who's going to get the triptych? You know who gets the pizza Motzei Shabbos? You know who's going to get on the roller coaster in Six Flags? First come, first serve. Whoever gets there first, period. The guy who woke up early in the morning, and he packed his bags, and the second davening was over, he made sure he was ready in the car during the Chazor Sashatz of Shachris, even though it's Chol Hamoed, and he made sure to be there as he actually camped out from Motzei Yom Kippur. He's waiting there 8 days from Motzei Yom Kippur. He put his sukkah at the entrance of Great Adventures so that he could get, basically, it's first come, first serve. You know who gets the triptych? First come, first serve. Whoever gets there first. Says Rav Yitzchak Petterberg, this is the system of the Ran. The Ran says that there is a system of judgment where even if somebody does not have more mitzvahs than averos, there might be a particular mitzvah that God favors, and Hashem says, oh, you have this mitzvah, I'm going to give you a better judgment. So what we want to discover is, what is that mysterious zuchus for the judgment of Rosh Hashanah that God will say, I like that zuchus so much, I will give you a favorable spot on the line. And Rav Yitzchak Petterberg says that since this is all about attaining Rachamei Shamayim, Hashem's mercy, what type of attitude in preparation for the din will achieve more mercy from HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Says Rav Yitzchak, the more one is afraid of the din, the more one is scared of the din, the more Rachamim one engenders from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You know, we once said over from Aaron Cutler an amazing thing. It's such a powerful idea. You know, the Rishonim tell us the following remez. Aryeh shag mila yira. When the lion roars, who's not afraid? Aryeh stands for Elul, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Hoshana Rabbah. Question is, Elul, what happens in Elul? Nothing happens in Elul. Rosh Hashanah, I understand, there's judgment. Yom Kippur, there's judgment. Hoshana Rabbah, there's judgment. What do you mean Elul? Nothing happens in the month of Elul. There's nothing taking place in the month of Elul. Says Rav Aaron Cutler, he brings from earlier sources, something happens on Rosh Chodesh Elul. In a way, what happens on Rosh Chodesh Elul is the most frightening of the entire process. You know what the most frightening part of the judicial system is? Getting the summons in the mail. That's like, you know, a person is frozen, is pachad noira, not knowing the impending. Once they're in court already, they're there, you know, their heart is racing, but they sort of now, they knew what was coming. But getting the summons, that's the biggest pachad noira. Rav Aaron says, Rosh Chodesh Elul, the summons comes in the mail. Show up to court in 30 days. Aryeh shag mila yira. That's the pachad pechadim. You know what engenders the most rachamim? When a person's scared of the din. And it's not like the Rebbe Shem wants us to be scared. And how do you demonstrate taking the din seriously? Well, the same way if somebody had to show up to an earthly court, he would arrange his arguments. He would hire an attorney. He would prepare his case. He would make sure that he would present himself in the best possible way. The biggest zechus, even if somebody sinned the whole year, but the zechus that will find specific favor in the eyes of Hashem, that Hashem will say, you know, I like that zechus. I will put you early on in the line because of the zechus. That zechus is, says Rav Yitzchak, if we could identify the zechus, that would be amazing, because in the 11th hour, it's not like we could do more mitzvahs and averos, and we have no way to figure out how to randomly get to the front of the line, but if somehow we could identify the special zechus that will find favor in the eyes of Hashem, that Hashem will place us early on in the line, that will really be a windfall. That zechus is first come, first serve. The earlier you start preparing, when you hear that shofar blow, as soon as you start getting your act together and say, well, wait a second, in 30 days, Hashem's going to decide my health, my family, my life. I got to get myself together. Otherwise, during the course of the year, we ask, do I daven? Yeah, I daven with minyan. And what time do you get there? Enough time to say Oleinu. But when a person realizes that, the judgment is coming, they get themselves together on a completely different level. It's a much higher level scrutiny. And the sooner we start preparing from Rosh Chodesh Elul, the better spot we get online, because when it comes to the din, it's first come, first serve. The sooner you prepare, the earlier you position yourself on the line, the better the outcome will be. So you say, Rabbi Glatstein, but I'm sure there are other people who learn to say for Koich Ve'ar, and they know that a way to get to the front of the line is to prepare at the beginning of Chodesh Elul. So they're going to be like, now they're going to be, especially there are people listening, they're going to be like 10,000 people getting onto the front of the line, So now what do you're not doing me any favor. You should have told me this privately. I'm trying to get ahead of the next guy. Because Rav Yitzchak Petterberg says that it says in Koheles, V'choitei echad ya'abei toy v'harbe. One sin could cause a great detriment, which means every earlier spot you are in the line spells all the difference in the world, because if I could get ahead of just one person's sins, God will be in so much better of a mood. So that's why I'm here tonight, to give you the inside scoop. Because there might be some people that know that as soon as Rosh Chodesh Elul comes, they're going to start getting their act together, they're going to start doing tshuva, and there are going to be so many people early on in the line. It's like all the people who camped out in Great Adventures, so even though you spent the night there, you're still going to wait online for 2.5 hours. So here's the inside scoop, but don't tell anybody else. Because there's an amazing comment of the Ben La'ashri on Parsha Sur'eh. Ben La'ashri, of course, is the tzaddik of Ranana, Rabbi Yitzchak HaKohen Hoberman, who writes, he was not blessed with children, and he says anyone who says over his Divrei Torah in his name, he will pray for them and bail them out of any trouble in this world or the next world. So, hopefully that works, but his eitzah certainly will be life-saving. And that is, please take a look at number 26. The pasuk says in the Parsha, Ki'im el hamakom asher yivchar Hashem alekeichem, but only to the place that Hashem your God chooses, mikol shiftechem, from all your tribes, l'asum Hashem sham, to put His name there. L'shichnai sidrashu uvas Hashem, literally to his Mishkan, to His Beis HaMikdash, you should seek out and come there. So it's a very simple pasuk. Don't bring karbanos in your backyard. Don't get your grill going, and while your kids are jumping on a trampoline, bring karbanos on your bama. No. Bring it to the mikdash. But it says, the tzaddik Ranana homiletically, shichnai kamin l'shichnai, to the neighbor. Everybody's getting ready for Rosh Hashanah in Chodesh Elul. Thing is, we want to get to the front of the line. L'shichnai, the neighbor of Elul, tidrashu, seek out Hashem, uvas Hashama, then you'll get a nice spot on the line. If you already begin to do tshuva, not in Chodesh Elul, but l'shichnai, in the neighbor of Elul, in the friend of Elul, the month of Av, as Ram Gamliel Rabinovich brings, Av is Rosh Tevos, Elul ba, Elul is coming. So then, you could be sure, then you're going to get a good spot in the line. So the Parsha Sur'eh, which we read right before Chodesh Elul, it's given us the inside scoop, because the judgment of Rosh Hashanah is dependent on one's position and location in the line. Because when it comes to the din of Rosh Hashanah, Rabbi say it's location, location, location. And you want to get a good spot, because the earlier you are on the line, the better mood the judge is going to be in. So you want to make sure you're there before the court opens in the morning. So even before that summon comes in the mail on Rosh Chodesh Elul, so you ready to start preparing in Chodesh Av. People are still vacationing. They say, Labor Day is not for a while. It's still the summer. It's Olympics. No. That's when you have to start doing Teshuva now. Beat the Elul rush, and then that will ensure you get a good spot on the line. And Be'ezus Hashem, we should all be zoicha to a shnas, ksiva v'chasima toiva, of good health, Yeshuas and Achamas, lanu u'lechol Yisrael. Amen. Shkayach. Okay.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.